Okay, so the FOBO-Bike system is installed, and I need to adjust the tire pressure there. Anyway, thing about the sensors, and by the way, I do have the lock nuts on. You use this tool they give you. Again, they've got great videos on installation on their website. I suggest for installation you do it. Anyway, so it doesn't hit the rim, and I don't believe it'll also be a problem with rubber stems because centrifugal force is going to want to throw this out. And if you look, it only moves a little bit before the FOBO then touches the rim, and it's touching the rim at an angle, not some edge like it warns about hitting, right? Absolutely no issue with the front, and I'll show you the rear in a minute. Now, one thing about the lock nuts, you better carry this tool with you. Even after you remove the sensor, you're not going to get an air filler on there because the lock nut keeps you from getting the air filler all the way on. So carry this tool with you so if you use the lock nuts, you can remove that lock nut to fill the tire, okay? So word of caution there. Anyway, let's go take a look at the rear installation. Okay, rear installation. I don't know if you can see it, but same kind of affair. It does not hit the rim with installed, and I do have the lock nut on this as well. Now, when I had my tire changed, he did put on a different stem. It was a little bit shorter, which helps with filling, let me tell you, and getting a gauge in there. Anyway, same kind of affair. Centrifugal force is going to want to throw this out, and it doesn't flex much before it hits the rim. So I don't think there's going to be an issue, as some naysayers have said, about having these sensors on rubber stems and tearing the stems up. I don't believe there's going to be an issue. Also, I went for a ride. I didn't feel any vibration doing 70 with these on, like the tire needs to be rebalanced, okay? I get some more miles on and make sure I'm not feeling anything. But anyway, the system works as advertised, and it goes on the Spyder very well with no issues. So I'll come back and finish up a little talk here. Just a little tip from me on this FOBO app. The display does take a while to update. I don't know if it's the sensor that just sends out a signal every now and then, or whether it's just the software and how quickly it probes the sensors. But I'll show you here. I'll unscrew the front left sensor. Watch how long it takes to update. Well, it updated right away. Now I'll screw it in. So I think it's what, as you see, it takes a little while. So when you first bind one of these, if you're reading 0, which I did, I thought I had a bad sensor. I waited long enough. Sorry for the shaky camera. I waited long enough and it updated, especially after first binding. It was reading 0 for quite a while. I thought, do I got a bad sensor? So I kept screwing it and unscrewing it and all that kind of stuff, and it finally registered. Anyways, you see I need to balance these two front tires and move on. Final comments, sensor accuracy. So what I did was, after I set them all up, I went ahead and moved the sensors around before putting the lock nuts on, just to see if each sensor read exactly the same on each tire, and they do. So they must be calibrated really well at the factory. When I took this sensor and moved it over here, now granted, the display doesn't know you moved the sensor, right? But at least it'll read different tire pressure. So I moved like this sensor over here and this sensor over here and flipped them, and they read it identically the same. Then I took one of the front sensors, put it on the rear, and it read the same 28.6. And then I took the rear sensor, moved it to the front. It read the same 19, and then gave a warning, low pressure, because the rear sensor min and max is 30 and 26. So when I put it on the front, of course, it didn't like that and said low tire pressure. So the warning system worked well as well. So bottom line, the system works as advertisers. The sensors seem extremely accurate. And the only thing I had a problem with was when I did the first tire, it connected immediately. When I went to do the second tire, the sensor never connected. It just wouldn't connect. I'm like, what the heck's going on? Then I took a third sensor, and the third sensor hooked it up to that left tire, and it connected, but it read nothing but 0, 0. I was impatient and didn't wait. I guess when the sensors are new, it takes them a little time to calibrate or do whatever they do. So what I did is then, after having that problem, I thought I had two bad sensors, when in fact I didn't. What I did is I came over to this tire, undid everything, and then bound each sensor at this tire. Now maybe there's some radio noise or something in the other areas, because I had trouble. I tested all three sensors on this right tire over here, and all of them connected, all of them read, right away, and I'm like, wait a minute, do I got a problem with a valve stem on the left side? So then I took a sensor that I had programmed on the right and moved over to the left, and it read. So I followed the instructions and released it and did it again, and this time it worked. When I went to the rear, I couldn't get the sensor to bind again. It just wouldn't bind. I don't know why, it just wouldn't bind. Brought the sensor up here, hooked it up, and of course, immediately when I did, I got a low pressure. And I bound it up here. When I screwed it back on the rear, then it read the correct pressure after a little delay in updating, okay? So I did have a little bit of a problem binding them on different locations on the Spyder. Not sure why. The weird thing is, after I did all that, and I brought them all back here, released them all, and then did it on each tire, they all worked fine. So something a little weird when the sensors are new. Maybe they were, when they tested at the factory, they somehow got programmed and not released. I don't know. But it was a little fidgety getting them bound. But eventually, as you see, they're all bound and working. I'm looking good. Need to drop that tire a little bit in pressure. Anyway, so there's my little review of the FOBO-Bike system. And I'm digging it. I hate to say it. For $145, nice system. I love that it works on your phone. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. Have a good one.